How are you everyone and welcome to Snack English. Today's lesson is the second one in the series of vocabulary workshop. You are going to learn 10 new words. Of course, it's very important to practice, so in the description below you will find some links that will help you practice and answer some interesting questions. Before I start, click on that subscribe button and make sure you click on the bell so you get notified every time I put out a new video. Let's get started. The first word is laggard. Laggard. Laggard can be used as an adjective or a noun. As a noun means a person who moves slowly or falls behind. A person who moves slowly or falls behind. For example, tour guides often have to urge laggards to keep up with the rest of the group. Tour guides often have to urge laggards to keep up with the rest of the group, which means tour guides often have to urge slow persons to keep up with the rest of the group. Some synonyms for this word: straggler, dawdler, or lingerer. Another example: in the race, James was the laggard who finished in the last place. In the race, James was the slowest one who finished in the last place. As an adjective means slow to move, act, or respond. For example, Ali insists all the laggard businesses will be profitable by the middle of the next year, which means Ali insists all the slow businesses will be profitable by the middle of the next year. Next, wrangle. Wrangle. Wrangle can be used as a verb or a noun. As a verb, it means to quarrel, fight, or argue. For example, my brother and sister always wrangle over whose turn it is to take out the trash, which means my brother and sister always fight or quarrel or argue over whose turn it is to take out the trash. Some synonyms for this word: quarrel, row, dispute, fight, clash, or disagree. Another example: my brother always wrangles with my father for permission to take his car out for a drive, which means my brother always argues with my father for permission to take his car out for a drive. As a noun means a noisy quarrel or fight. For example, yesterday, my brothers had such a long wrangle over the use of the bicycle, which means yesterday my brothers had such a long fight over the use of the bicycle. Next, revert. Revert. Revert is a verb which means to go back to a former practice or to return. For example, for tonight, Mike did his homework, then he reverted to his usual lazy ways, which means for tonight, Mike did his homework, then he returned to his usual lazy ways. Some synonyms for this word: go back or regress. Another example: I'm not sure how to revert the television to its default settings, which means I'm not sure how to return the television to its default settings. After that, preclude. Preclude. Preclude is a verb. If something precludes an event or action, it prevents the event or action from happening. For example, 3 wrong answers will preclude any contestant from entering the quiz show's final round, which means 3 wrong answers will prevent any contestant from entering the quiz show's final round. Some synonyms for preclude like prevent, make it impossible for, stop, hinder, or shut out. Another example: your silly pride about doing everything on your own precludes your getting the help you need, which means your silly pride about doing everything on your own makes it impossible to get the help you need, or your silly pride about doing everything on your own prevents you getting the help you need. Next, servile. Servile. Servile is an adjective relating to a slave or behaving like a slave or servant, or lacking spirit or independence. For example, even though Jennifer was no longer a maid, she still felt servile when she was in a room with wealthy people. Which means, even though Jennifer was no longer a maid, she behaved like a slave or servant when she was in a room with wealthy people. Some synonyms for this word: slavish or groveling. Slavish or groveling. Another example: in his eagerness to make a deal, the salesman was servile in his attempt to please the potential buyers. Which means, in his eagerness to make a deal, the salesman was acting like a slave in his attempt to please the potential buyers. Jostle. Jostle. Jostle as a verb means to bump or push as in a crowd, or to elbow or shove roughly. For example, I tried not to jostle other riders as I exited the crowded bus, which means I tried not to push other riders as I exited the crowded bus. Some synonyms such as push, shove, elbow, or collide with. Another example: the cafeteria line was so crowded that I was jostled past the desserts before I take one, which means the cafeteria line was so crowded that I was pushed, I was shoved past the desserts before I take one. Next word, vigil. Vigil. Vigil is a noun which means a period of keeping awake or a period of watchful attention. For example, with tireless devotion, the ailing child's parents kept an anxious vigil at his bedside. Some synonyms like a watch or wakefulness. An example: protesters are holding a 24-hour vigil outside the Socialist Party headquarters. Rubble. Rubble. Rubble as a noun means the pieces that remain after a structure is destroyed, or broken stones or bricks, or ruins. For example, the hurricane turned several oceanfront homes into piles of rubble, which means the hurricane turned many oceanfront homes into piles of broken stones. Some synonyms for this word, such as wreckage, debris, ruins, or remains. Another example: when the skyscraper blew up, thousands of people were imprisoned under the rubble. The next word, hover. Hover. Hover is a verb that means to remain near a place or individual, or to move back and forth over or around. For example, the bees hover over their hive to protect it, which means the bees move around their hive to protect it. Some synonyms such as stick around, hang around, or linger. Another example: a large group of vultures hovered in the air above the wounded animal. The last word is plaudits. Plaudits. Plaudits is a noun that means a showing of approval or applause. A showing of approval or applause. For example, the skaters who won the gold medals gratefully accepted the plaudits of their fans, which means the skaters who won the gold medals gratefully accepted the cheers of their fans. Some synonyms for this word, such as cheers or acclaim. Another example: during the match, my friend gained some plaudits after scoring the first goal, which means my friend gained some cheers after scoring the first goal. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a good listen today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you are a new visitor.